The second issue I want to focus on is a Japanese ritual called Mizuko Kuyo. It involves a bodhisattva named Jizo in Japanese, and this bodhisattva in the original version from India, he went down to one of the hells to save his mother who was suffering there and became a bodhisattva in the process. And so this is a bodhisattva whose special characteristic is to help to save people who are suffering in hells, just like the Bodhisattva of Compassion specializes in being compassionate to people. So we have a Bodhisattva that deals with the issue of death, but in Japan it mixes with some Japanese folklore and of course in contemporary times gets its own new twist because this particular ritual focuses on saving children who have died either very, very young or in childbirth, or, as is the most common, children who have been aborted as fetuses. And it's quite interesting because the way that the whole issue is handled is just so radically different from how this question of abortion is handled in America, where it's obviously been a very highly politicized issue, and there are very strong opposition between those who emphasize a woman's right to choose and those who say that life begins at conception and therefore an abortion is murder and therefore should be illegal. And so we have this very ongoing not only vigorous debate, but oftentimes really bordering on disrespectful, that we have a difficult time dealing with this issue because the two sides are so polarized. In Japan, despite being a Buddhist country, they have a fairly high abortion rate. And the Buddhist tradition on the whole does not take a strong kind of pro-life position, despite the fact that there is absolutely no question from a Buddhist perspective that once a fetus is conceived, that it is a living thing, and because of the ideas of rebirth, that you are killing a sentient being. That's what it is. So that's not the issue to be debated as it often is in America. But despite clearly having the sense that it is that you're killing a sentient being, it's dealt with in a very different way because we do lots of things that are bad and we kill lots of sentient beings. If you're not a vegetarian, then you are killing sentient beings also. And while it's true we might make distinctions between killing higher order beings and lower order beings, and maybe it's worse to kill human beings than it is to kill pigs and cows, but nonetheless, if your parents die, they might come back as pigs and cows. That's the way rebirth works. And so, in a more general sense, we do engage in all kinds of killing of sentient beings all of the time. And there is a sense that the real problem for Buddhism is ignorance. That if we only understood the true nature of things, if we only understood the way karma works, the way things are really interconnected, and then we would act better. And so that changes the way the whole issue is framed. And this particular ritual highlights the suffering of the parents and the suffering of the fetus or the very young child that died. And there's the sense that they can't really move on. They're sort of stuck because they didn't develop fully enough that they are able to do certain things within the Japanese mythological context that would need to be done to move on to the next rebirth. And that's where Jizo comes in. And so the ritual will involve the parents sincerely apologizing to the fetus for taking its life. maybe bringing various presents, things that children would like candy, chocolates, stuffed animals, those kinds of things, and having a priest perform a ritual that will further help to get that sentient being that is deceased to let go of any kind of anger or other things that may be harmful in the rebirth process, and of course to call on Jizo to intervene and help that sentient being move into a better rebirth situation. So that's the basic idea. This is, you can click this link and find out a little bit more about the scene where they're sort of stuck on one side of a river and they need to cross over and they can't, and there's demons, and the demons are doing terrible things to the children, and Jizo will have to come and save them. These objects here are little small versions of Jizo, and the parents will write the particulars of the deceased child on this bib, which they will hand make, and they will purchase one of these stone Jizos and put it in a temple. If you look at this picture up here, you can see there are temples that specialize in this, and you may have hundreds of these all together in rows like that. And so the ritual essentially helps the parents to feel better that the child in question is going to be okay and move on in the rebirth process, but also to help them feel better and get over feelings of guilt that they might have. And if you want to see the ritual, you can click this link. The subtitles are all in Japanese, and so you won't be able to understand exactly what's going on. We'll look at a couple pieces in class, and I'll translate a bit of it. But it's definitely worth taking a look and seeing what the ritual looks like. So please take a look at that, and then we can talk about it in class.